We're crossing over the desk now to Flo, who's here to tell us what's going on in the international headlines. And of course, very much riding high is Hurricane, or now Storm Harvey, and the devastation it's caused in Houston.
Let's take a look at the Houston Chronicle. Of course, there's been a whole lot of focus on people who have been dubbed the Houston heroes, everyday people who have stepped in to help rescue efforts, help their neighbor. You can see this is the political cartoon in the Houston Chronicle by Dana Summers, with one guy helping another into the boat there, saying this is a heck of a way to get people to care for one another.
And the spotlight's also been on President Donald Trump because he travelled to the region to take a look at some of the disaster relief efforts.
And Donald Trump once again commented on the unprecedented nature of the storm. Now, of course, Donald Trump is quite the climate skeptic, and this angle is getting a lot of attention in cartoon form. Once again, you can see it here in Courrier International. You can see this is a Dutch cartoonist, Arend van Dam. You can see these people in their house that's being flooded. Donald Trump there saying climate change is a hoax. Now, some people are hoping that Donald Trump will change his mind, change his view on climate change in the wake of what we've seen happen in Houston. But some others are saying don't count on it. And you can see a political cartoon in The Guardian where they're focusing on this. This is Ben Jennings. You can see Donald Trump visiting Houston there. He says natural disasters are a terrible thing. They're unavoidable. I'm afraid. Nothing to do with man, though. Nothing we can do. It's so sad. And you can see him sinking there. But this whole climate change debate is playing out once again in cartoon form. There's a great cartoon in the New York Times. This is by Chapat, which turns, I guess you could say, stereotypes on its head. You can see an oil driller here in Texas. Oil drillers often known not to believe in climate change. Well, you can see this flooded oil driller saying, stop climate change before, I guess, it drowns his oil field.
And that debate about climate change has also been raging on in the written press as well. But is it too early for us to be talking about climate change?
Well, that's what some people argue. If we take a look at a piece in the Washington Times, which is a conservative paper, you can see they're lashing out against what they call the climate change movement for blaming Harvey on climate change. You can see they're saying that before Harvey, it had been a record 12 years since a major hurricane had made landfall in the United States. Now, the Washington Post this time, so a liberal paper, says it is maybe too early to say that all this is due to global warming, climate change, but there are certainly warning signs. It says that anyone who's watching Houston who fails to worry about how humans are intensifying natural risks, including flooding, etc., they're ignoring these warning signs. And so this is the editorial that says that Houston is actually paying the price for public officials' ignorance. And there's also an interesting part in this editorial and an interesting piece in the Washington Post that focuses on what it calls Wild West growth in Houston that might have contributed to this flooding. Essentially, replacing prairies with concrete meant that land was rendered less and less capable of absorbing floodwater.
And Houston's not the only city that's underwater. There's been heavy monsoon rain in Mumbai as well. And
that, of course, is front page news in India. Let's take a look at the front page of the Hindu. You can see some of that crazy traffic that has sparked there in Mumbai. You can see the rain pounds Mumbai to a standstill, and there's no relief in sight. And the Huffington Post points out that Mumbai has not experienced such rain since 2005. You might remember there was massive flooding in 2005 that killed over 1,000 people. Now, this is interesting because there is a parallel with Houston here. This article blames massive urbanization in Mumbai for also contributing to this massive flooding that it's experienced several times. All this has clogged up the water evacuation system.
Let's move over to Iraq now. The province of Kirkuk has announced it's going to participate in a referendum on the independence of Kurdistan. Now, that's scheduled for next month.
It is, and it's a decision that's upset Baghdad, according to Al Arabi Al Jadid. That's a Qatari website. It's also ruffled the feathers of Iran and Turkey. Tehran and Ankara are concerned that this referendum could give ideas to their own Kurdish minorities, essentially give them ideas to reinforce their own independence. Now, the president of the autonomous region gives an interview to Asharq al-Awsat, a pan-Arab paper based in London, where he kind of plays things down. He tries to reassure people, but he's quite defiant and says this referendum is inevitable.
And one final one, we're ending with the FARC, the Colombian rebel group, or former Colombian rebel group, has been moving out of the jungle and into Congress.
That's right. They're holding their first Congress in Bogota, and it's a symbolic move that's part of their transition from an insurgent force, into a real political party. And now one of the big questions is, should they change their name? The FARC means Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, and it of course has a very heavy historical connotation. Some people in the party want to keep the name. They say it's part of their identity, but some people want to rebrand the party. And in fact, they consulted with people on internet. You can see some of the names that came up there in those bubbles there. One of the favorite one was Nueva Colombia, so New Colombia, and there were others including the Hope for the People, the New Party as well. Now, this article in Semana says that rebranding won't be enough. They're going to need a really effective marketing strategy as well, and concrete action to erase that negative connotation that a lot of people associate with the FARC in Colombia.
A story we'll be following, I'm sure, as that unfolds. Flo, with all the international news, thanks very much for that. Still to come on the programme, the capital city that's undergoing an enormous transformation. New infrastructure and green spaces, but do its 12 million inhabitants approve? Find out in Focus.